Welcome to Module 2, Creating a Maternity Leave Plan. I know that the process of creating a maternity leave plan can seem overwhelming and like something else that you have to do. We want to make sure that you have a smooth and effortless transition into your maternity leave. So it's going to be really important that we create this plan so that you have clarity around your leave, that you have any deadlines built into your plan for any documents that you need to send in or for anything that you need to make sure that you're doing before you go out on the leave. And then so you have an actual physical document that you can present to your manager or your supervisor that details all of the components of your leave while you are out. Remember, in Module 2, there's also a supplemental maternity leave plan template document that you can use as we walk through creating this maternity leave. And that way you can stop, pause if you need to, fill out that specific section, go back and listen to it if you want to listen to it in that way to fill out your document. But we want to make sure that you have all of the tools and all of the resources available to you to create your maternity leave plan. So let's get started. First thing that you're going to do in creating your maternity leave plan is that you are going to take a personal inventory of yourself. When I say a personal inventory of yourself, what I'm saying is that you need to determine how much time that you feel like you need to take away from work. So you're going to think about the recovery process physically of giving birth. And how long is that going to take? This could be a conversation that you have with your medical provider who tells you, if they think it's going to be a 6-week recovery, is it going to be an 8-week or more recovery? But you want to make sure that you know for the physical part of recovery that you know what your time frame is going to be. A lot of people take 6 weeks to recover from childbirth. So you want to make sure that you're not putting in your document that you're going to come back in 3 or 4 weeks when that just may not be possible. It's totally up to you. It's your journey, but you want to make sure that you take care of yourself and that you give yourself the appropriate time to physically recover. You're also going to think about in this personal inventory, how long do you want to add for bonding with your newborn? You want to make sure that you have that time with them. So, if it takes you 6 weeks to recover at a minimum, how many more weeks do you want to build out for the bonding part? Most of the leaves that are available to you as you move through other modules and learn more about them, they allow you to have 12 weeks away from work. So, thinking about, do you need the full 12 weeks away from work? Can you, handle taking on a few extra weeks that you might need? So really think about it in this section. How much time am I going to need? And take that self-inventory. Now, the second part of our maternity leave plan goes with anticipated leave dates. So you're going to actually say, what is your start date of your maternity leave? When is your end date of your maternity leave? These are anticipated start dates because we don't know when your baby is going to come. So we're just going to put an anticipated date out there. This is nothing more than a placeholder. You can come back later and fill in the exact dates if that's what you want to do. You will be doing that in a step process with your human resources department that we'll talk about later in this course. So you want to take what is your anticipated start date. Now, in doing that personal inventory, you want to think about, do I need a week or two before my actual due date so that I can get myself prepared for my maternity leave? Is there any last minute things that you need to do? And do you want to step away from work a week or two before you actually plan to give birth? Now, this could also be you want to work right up into the day that you have the baby, and that is perfectly okay. Remember, this is your journey and you can navigate this however that you want to, but make sure that you're taking a moment and taking that personal inventory of yourself so that you can make sure that you have a plan that is going to work for you and that you are getting the amount of time off that you need for you. The anticipated return date is once we have thought about how long that we want to be off for bonding, how long it's going to take us to physically recover. So that's what that end date is going to be. Now, as we mention and talk about in modules further within this course, there are some states that have different types of leaves available to you. So, that 12 weeks of leave could possibly be more that you're allotted in a specific state. So you want to make sure that you have what is your anticipated return date, because we want as much clarity as we can around your maternity leave. Now, the third piece of your maternity leave is that you are going to have to determine how accessible you will be during your maternity leave. And so I really want you to think about this part. I want you to do that personal inventory and thinking about, is it okay for someone to reach out to me while I'm out on maternity leave and I'm recovering, or I'm, bonding with my newborn? Is that okay with you? Is it not? Do you not want anyone to reach out to you in any way? But also remembering there are specific laws that surround some leaves. A lot of short-term disabilities, if you take advantage of that, your employer can't reach out to you. So you really need to, in this section, take that personal inventory of, do you want someone to call you? And if you do, put in your leave plan exactly who you want that contact to be. If you want all contact to you to run through your human resources department, put that in your leave plan document so that that is the only person that is going to reach out to you. If you have a specific coworker that, it's okay for them to reach out to you, put that in your document. Because remember, we want this document to be very clear on what you want, because this is your leave and you can navigate it how you want. So now that you have determined who is going to be someone that could contact you, or if they can't, if there is someone that can contact you, make sure that you put in there in what instances can they contact you. If you're a CEO or the founder of a company, a co-founder, anything like that, it could be very different on what someone would want to reach out to you about. And so in your leave plan, you need to be very clear on instances in which you want someone to actually reach out to you. And then what are some of those things that can be handled when you get back? So providing as much clarity for a team as you possibly can, if you're in one of those roles, is going to be critical to your leave plan to ensure that you have the time away that you need. And also being accessible on your leave plan. It could be that for the first 6 weeks, you say, okay, I'm recovering physically, and I don't want anybody to reach out to me. But after I've, physically recovered and I feel like I'm in a really good space, then someone could reach out to me, and let's say in week 10. And so write that into your leave plan, because you want to make sure, again, that you have as much clarity as you can have around your maternity leave and someone reaching out to you. The fourth thing that you're going to put into your maternity leave plan, and honestly, this is probably the most robust part of the maternity leave plan that you're going to complete, is who is going to take over the responsibilities of your position while you are out on your maternity leave. The first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we identify who is the person that is going to take on my responsibility while I am out. You have agreed upon who that person is. You're going to write their name into your leave plan and say, this person is going to take on my job responsibilities while I'm out. Now, the next piece of this is us really taking an inventory of the work professional side of us and saying, okay, what does this person need to have access to in order to be successful while they are taking on my responsibilities while I am on leave? And keeping in mind, if you decide that you don't want to be bothered during your maternity leave, do they have all of the information that they need in order to be able to fulfill your responsibilities while you're out? So this could be that you're going to need to set them up in systems that you have access to so that they can log into those systems and perform the duties that you would normally perform. Do they have access to any contacts that you work with on a daily so that they can reach out and make sure that the work is still getting done? Do they have any special trainings that they're going to need to do in order to be able to fulfill the responsibilities of your position while you're not there? Is there any meetings that you have standing meetings with? Could be direct reports. It could be with a specific company that you might work with, another department. Do they have every single thing that they need in order to be successful while you're away? Now, once you have identified who they are, you have given them access to systems that you're going to need them to use while you're out. They have received any trainings that they need to have. You're also going to need to think about the part of introducing them to another department, introducing them to a client, and how you're going to do that. Are you going to, send out an email to your clients, giving them the contact information of the person that they'll be working with while you're out on your maternity leave? Are you going to set up a Zoom meeting? Are you going to set up a physical meeting for everybody to get to know each other and start building that working relationship while you're away from the office, so that you can have the peace of mind that you need to make sure that your work is getting done, setting everyone up for success here? Are we, able to do that? One thing that might be really helpful is, letting clients know what, especially if you're kind of client based, is letting them know what your, anticipated leave dates are. Letting them know that you're going to be going on a maternity leave and that this individual is going to be taking over your responsibilities, so that you're making them aware too. Can be a section that you need to write into your maternity leave plan, and kind of connecting with them and letting them know that. Once you've done that and you've, decided who's going to take on the responsibility, another point to add into your maternity leave plan is just thinking about, how far out do I need to do this? So, do I need to start the process of training maybe 2 months before I'm gone, a month before I'm gone? And that way that, you have all of that detail, because remember, this plan is going to provide clarity for yourself so that you have those deadlines built in, but also you're going to be providing it to your manager. And that way they can see that you have a clear plan in place to make sure that your duties are done while you're not there. Something else that you might want to think about while you're in this part is, when it is going to be the ideal time for the transition to actually happen. And so, putting that date that, my anticipated start of my leave date may be this date, but am I going to go ahead and kind of shift everything over to them maybe 2 or 3 days before I'm out? That way they have time to actually do the job, and then I'm there to support them in the best way I can and answer any questions. Once I transition out, they may not have accessibility to me anymore. So it's really truly creating that robust plan to set that individual up for success. So our fifth component of our maternity leave plan is us just thinking about, how are we going to transition back into the work environment? So I really want you to, again, take that personal inventory of yourself. And we've, done this in the first half of this, but now we want to take this into the second half of our leave in our thinking here. I really want you to think about, when you transition back in, is this where you're going to just rip the Band-Aid off and you are just going to come right back into the work environment, like your leave ends on this date and you're going to actually start that next day? Do you want something like that where you just jump on in, or do you want something where you do more of a transition back into the work environment? Remember, this is your maternity leave and you can navigate this however you want to, but I want you to be, thinking about, you've been away from the work environment for possibly 12 weeks or more. And so thinking about, do you want to transition back into that? Do you want to maybe 2 weeks out, writing into this plan that you're going to work maybe part-time for the first couple of weeks and get yourself acclimated back to maybe a 40-hour a week job? Or, do you want to work 2 weeks out, you want to work maybe 20 hours 1 week, 30 hours the next week, and kind of give yourself that ramp up? That's really something to think about. Sometimes, we don't always think about our possibilities of coming back into the work environment and what is going to be best for us, so that we're not feeling overwhelmed and that we can just come back into the work environment. You also want to think about, and not very many people at all think about this. So do you want to come back on a Monday? Do you want to, Mondays usually have a lot going on. And if you've been away from the work environment for a minimum of 12 weeks, will you be overwhelmed coming back if you start on a Monday? I would strongly suggest to you to start back on a Wednesday or Thursday. That way you can kind of, it's a lot less chaotic sometimes in some work environments. And so, really giving yourself that smooth transition back in. A Wednesday or a Thursday gives you a couple, days within the work week to get yourself kind of up and going and back in the environment. before you go back to, your Monday through Friday hours or whatever hours that you work in your position. So, I really want you to think about that piece because it's important for you to have that smooth and effortless transition back in. Keeping those things in mind, taking that self-inventory. We usually think about this sometimes right before we're about to come into the work environment, but think about how much easier this will be for you if at this moment, when you're starting to create your maternity leave plan, if you already have your childcare figured out plenty of time in advance so that you kind of just transition right into that as well. So I would say, when you're in this part of figuring out your transition back into work, finding your childcare options, seeing, do you need full-time childcare? Do you need something that's a little bit more flexible? Writing all of that stuff into your plan, because remember, you want clarity around your leave. We want to make this as easy for you as we can. And, putting all of the pieces out there so that you have time to find, the best childcare that you can for your baby. And, even sometimes, a backup if that one doesn't work out. But having it on the front end in the plan where you can just move right along into, transitioning back in the work environment without all the stress of trying to figure that out at the last minute. Now that we have decided we're going to transition back into the work environment, maybe on a ramp up, or we're going to come in on a Thursday, we've wrote all of that out. We have our childcare coverage. There might be some flexibility, in hours or something when you come back, building all of that in the plan so that you have it. And then we're going to transition into the sixth component, and that is unplugging as much as possible. It's your maternity leave. You just gave birth. You need time to physically recover. You need time to bond with your new baby. You want that time to be able to unplug as much as you absolutely can. One way that you can unplug is, we've created that the work is going to get done while you're away. And the best thing that we can do to help you unplug is removing your email that is work. Remove it from, any Slacks or Microsoft Teams or anything that keeps you connected to work. Remove that from your phone. A lot of times when you have that type of accessibility from your phone, then you end up using it and you end up taking a quick peek, and then you can't really unplug because you're still connected to the work environment. And this is really a time for you to take care of you and take care of your new baby and bond with your new baby. I totally understand if you are a CEO, a founder, a co-founder of a company, that might be a little bit hard for you to not want to be engaged in the work environment and to, know what's going on and to respond. But if we created our maternity leave plan and we have that plan in place, you should be able to unplug as well. The work is going to get done if you created the infrastructure for that to happen. And now is the time for you to just take care of you. So, make sure you're doing those simple things like removing the accessibility of a lot of this information that we have at our fingertips from our cell phones. And now we're going to go into our seventh point, and that is we're a week out from returning back to work. And so there's probably a little bit of nervousness and a little bit of apprehension and a lot of emotion because, it's coming time to where you're possibly going to have to leave your newborn in childcare. That first week before we get ready to return back to work, what are some things that we can do? So we've unplugged in our sixth component of this. And so we've been unplugged for a little bit. And now is when we're going to start plugging back in. So this may be the time when you actually go in and you take your cell phones or any other devices that you have that are there, and you're going to start adding email back if you choose. You may find that you want to keep it off, but if you want to add your email back into your phone or any type of Slacks or Microsoft Teams or any of those little chat accounts, go ahead and add those back in a week back because you're starting to slowly ramp in. Remember, if we decided that in our leave plan that we were going to slowly transition back into the work environment, we're going to slowly transition and adding those things back within that first week. It doesn't mean you have to do it on a Monday, but, start making the plug-in back into the work environment. This could also be where, you could possibly take a call with the client or a team and just, maybe tell them that, you're going to be transitioning back into the work environment. You just wanted to remind them that you're about to be transitioning back in slowly. And so that during that time, they may be still working with the person who has been covering over time, and then they're going to transition back to you. This is during a time where you want to schedule a meeting with the person who has been covering for you over the past several weeks to make sure that you can get brought up to speed on, what's kind of happens while you've been out. So they should be, telling you about any of the big projects they've completed for you, anything that they need to pass over that you still need to do. You want to have a smooth transition back into the work environment, just like you had a smooth transition out. So I would strongly suggest that first day, as you're acclimating back in, email can be very overwhelming because it's very possible that you got copied on a lot of emails. So something that might be easier for you is just set some realistic expectations for yourself and, slowly work your way through your email. Have, make face-to-face meetings with people and just kind of, if that's better for you and less overwhelming, to get yourself brought up to speed. If there's anything that you can take away from this when you transition back in, do it slowly. Do it on your terms. All of the information is there. Don't overwhelm yourself by just wanting to jump in so fast because you're dealing with so many emotions. And schedule a check-in, with your childcare provider for your baby. It's an emotional time. You're leaving them and you're coming back into the work environment. So make sure that you add that to your checklist too. Our final piece of this is you are now back to work. You have possibly had meetings. You're back up to speed. Give yourself a little bit of grace here. It's going to take a little bit for you to transition completely and be 100% where you were, because you've been out of the office for a little bit. Things are a little bit different for you. So, really, truly being realistic with yourself and setting realistic expectations for yourself and, just understanding that you can take the time to get yourself back to where you need to be. So when you're in this part of your maternity leave plan, the actual return to work, you've had that date there. You have done everything that you've needed to do to make sure that someone could come in and do your position. You have slowly transitioned yourself back in over a few weeks period. You did a ramp up, or, you decided that you wanted to come in on a Wednesday or a Thursday so you're less overwhelmed. You have laid the greatest foundation that you can lay. So now you just want to come back into the work environment, get yourself up to speed, and just give yourself grace so that you have a chance to get back in the work environment and not be overwhelmed.